So, yeah, so I just wanted to introduce you, Rafed. So I think you're famous here on Clubhouse. You've debated a lot of people, angered a lot of Salafis, Wahhabis, and I think you've even talked to me before about it, getting death threats. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. So, there are many Sikh people, especially the extremists among the Salafis. Of course, I wouldn't say all of them are the same, irrespective of their doctrine or their beliefs. But the truth is, many of them are extremists, especially, when they are chatting, behind the screen. They feel, they have a license to threaten people, to misbehave, generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean that is rather unfortunate. Um, it in a way it can be unfortunate, but I guess in a way it also shows how much of a threat you've become to them, and it shows how valuable your information might be if they find it that threatening. Um, Speaking about how
Um,
you acquired your information, um,
sorry,
ju-
if I may just shed light, on
yes,
this issue of the threats. Yeah, it does mean, that the message is actually hitting home. So the message is being passed across, and it's, penetrating into their skulls or maybe into their skin, and they're actually feeling the pressure. But also, it's actually, bringing out their reality. So the reality of this cult is actually, coming to the fore, and they are setting a very bad example for themselves. And it's actually not once that I got threatened. Quite, I think I can say, a number of times. And once, someone was even suggesting that, they should kind of, assist him um, to to travel to the country where I stay, or where he thinks I stay, and he will get an AK. Uh, I think he said AK-48. I don't know. That's what he said, or AK-47. He wanted to buy an AK-47, but he said AK-48, and he will actually hunt me. He will trace me and hunt me, and he wouldn't mind, killing me and all that. And he said this, and the person is a Libyan, and he was famous. He was popular or infamous on this app. People, among the Salafis, they actually know him very well.
wow. So yeah, it's amazing that it's actually gotten to that point. Um, I do want to go to where it kind of all began, like your upbringing in your Islamic education, becoming an alim, and now being in the Hausa. Like, like where do you think your biggest influence was? What motivated you to get into this particular path?
I guess you're actually asking the da'wah, preaching.
Dawa and debating, all of that.
Yeah, so, you know, um, as time, goes and the internet is taking over. For example, let's take for example TikTok. TikTok is supposed to be an entertainment app. I never, for example, open an account or wanted to open an account, because once when I downloaded the app and I see, the different types of video relating to entertainment and all that, I wasn't interested. So I think I deleted it. It was much later, where after, the Salafis were actually, let me put it this way, they were crushed on Clubhouse. So many of them, they actually did hijrah. They migrated to TikTok. They migrated to TikTok, and they were spreading their shubuhat, trying to hunt, lay Shia people and all that. So you see, they are actually not sleeping. So if we, as Shias, we're actually sleeping. We need to wake up. So they're actually, spreading their shubuhat on different social media apps, even the ones that are meant, for entertainment and not for the purpose of da'wah. So, anyways, when I came on Clubhouse, for example, I was much more active in the political rooms relating to politics in my country. And of course, I started seeing on the hallway, that's the main page of the homepage of Clubhouses was known as the hallway. So I started seeing, religiously influenced rooms, especially Shia Sunni debates and discussions, informal discussions and arguments and all that. So going into these rooms, I found out, many of them, some were Sunnis, mainstream, and many others were Salafis. So I frequented those rooms, and you know, the amount of hate that they were preaching, the amount of disinformation they were actually propagating, this will definitely, make you to want to take a position. So definitely, you will feel obliged to defend your aqidah. So, from there on, you have to start, researching, and, you start going deeper and deeper and deeper. And before you know it, you know, you kind of uh, gain a name for yourself and all that, even without it being intentional. Now, to be honest, before joining Clubhouse, yeah, I used to debate on religion, but it used to be against the Christians, less against Sunnis or Salafis. It was mostly against the Christians, because in the country where I live, it's a Christian Muslim thing. There's a Christian Muslim divide, and of course, the Christians are also very militant in that part of the world. So it wasn't really, Sunni Shia until I was exposed to the online scene, and from there on, you know, I don't know, it just happened. And of course, I'm not an alim, I'm not a scholar. It's just the passion. It's the incitement that one was exposed to that brought me, into the scene. Yeah, I am a student. Recently, I got into the Hausa, but I'm not an alim. Just to correct, the title you were actually giving me.
Okay, okay. Maybe it's a bit of an exaggeration, but I think you're definitely very well learned. It seems like you have done it for years, maybe many years. Just at least your upbringing has definitely been consistently Islamic.
Well, yeah. The issue of upbringing, this is the parental role, and I can say, since I was a kid, for example, I was exposed to the Quran and the Islamic practices like the Salah and all that through my parents, especially my mom. So she would start with a blackboard at home, teaching you Ayatul Kursi, Qul huwa Allahu Ahad, the Maw'idatain, Qul a'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq, and An-Nas. So this is actually the issue of gaining Islamic, the beginning of Islamic knowledge start at inside the house with the parents.
Yes, I guess it definitely does. So, let's talk about that sectarian issue, because I'm sure that based on what you have said, it hasn't really affected you growing up. You just mostly were kind of exposed to it online. What do you think about sectarian issues? Are they more inflated online than they are in reality nowadays, or do you think that it's still a significant problem, especially in areas like Parachinar and in West Asia?
Hmm. Um, to be honest, I don't think it's inflated online. Just that people find more freedom online for them to interact and go into very controversial issues than normally offline. they wouldn't actually want to, go into these issues. Offline, definitely on the ground. Like take for instance what's happening currently in Syria after the after Bashar al-Assad left Syria. Currently, there are massacres. They are targeting the Shias. Shias are getting beheaded with kitchen knives in the streets in public. So it's terrible. Terrible things happen to our people. This is something we cannot deny. Whether it's in Syria, in Parashina, or in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, even in Saudi, in Kuwait. Name me one, one Muslim country with a sizable Shia population that has not experienced, um, some form of oppression or persecution against the Shia. It's happening on the ground. Now, this can influence online discussions and what happens online. But also, we don't have to forget, since this is more or less, like it's an anonymous sin. People anonymously participate online. Online, social media apps can also be taken advantage of. So, those enemies of Islam, they are also, after spreading fitna, after causing incitement. Like, for example, I will give you an example. Like in one of our rooms on this app, once, um, there was someone, who came on the stage, and his sole purpose, for example, was cussing Aisha. So he wanted to cuss Aisha. We discovered that this guy was actually a Hindu. So imagine, someone who is a Hindu pretend. Of course, we got to know he's a Hindu because of some of the recorded rooms on his profile. So we discovered he's a Hindu, and his job is to cause fitna. So he comes into the Shia rooms and he insults Aisha, thinking, we will cheer him or clap for him. Of course, we wouldn't, because normally we don't allow um, ourselves to actually, cause or insult the religious figures of others, irrespective whether they are Sunni, Christian, or whatever. So he goes to the Sunni rooms. He similarly does this. Yeah, so we discovered this and we exposed him. So social media can actually be a positive tool for spreading information, and it can also be a tool for spreading fitna. And it's more or less, we can say, it's a double-edged sword. It can be positive and it can be negative.
Oh yeah, I see. I see. Especially taking advantage of that contentious issue, Aisha. It's definitely a contentious issue within Shiism, and using that to spread fitna. And it could come from outside, even outside the sects. The danger is not just necessarily within the sects and within the extreme wings of the sects, outside the sects, outside of the religion altogether. Um, so, just asking about the internal dynamics of the Shia community. What do you is your opinion on that? There are people that will say that she should be openly cursed because of what she's done, and um, there are others that are saying we have um, rules about taqiyya, rules about Shia Sunni unity. There are different rulings, different fatwas depending on which marja you're talking about. So, what is your opinion about the internal dynamics of Shiism and the different views, basically the Shirazi view versus the Khamenei view versus the Sistani view? What do you think?
Um, this is a very delicate, it's a very delicate issue. Now, to be realistic, fundamentally, we don't have uh, differences in terms of our position on certain controversial historical figures. We don't have differences. Our position is the same. This person is not good. This person is good. This person went against the Imam. This person hated the family of the Prophet. This person insulted the Prophet. Our positions are the same. But now, our approach towards the Sunnis, especially in public, how do we go about it? Now, for example, sometimes, like we have a room over here, someone might just be excited. I don't know. Maybe he has listened to some Latmiyas, or maybe he just recited Ziyarat Ashura at home. Or perhaps, maybe he has watched the documentary. He's excited, perhaps, and he comes on the stage, and the next thing, La'natullah, La'natullah, La'nat. And sometimes there are Sunnis here, and we're having, a decent discussion with them. So, what's the purpose, of sending the La'na? Is it to please Allah? If you want to, for example, like I always say, if you want to please Allah, you want to send La'na, do it at home. Allah will hear you. You don't have to come on Clubhouse and do it on social media. So, is the aim to spread da'wah? Is it to spread provocation? Is it to engage the Sunni or to anger him? So, the approach matters here. The circumstance, the context matters. If you want to gain thawab, you recite du'as, which are many. We have many of them containing la'na and all that. You want to recite ziyarah, go ahead. You want to do qunut, go ahead and do your la'na there. I mean, in the context of trying to reach out to the other side so that they understand our position and our rationale and our beliefs and our view on history. You cannot, come to someone to engage with him and firing shots, insulting their figures and all that. So I don't agree with this. So that's why, everyone knows, like on my stage, la'na is not permissible. Not necessarily because I think those people you're sending la'na on are not deserving of the la'na, because it's counterproductive. So if you actually want to send la'na, what's the purpose? Now, if you want to spread fitna, that's a different thing. I can open a room, I can call Aisha names, I can call certain Sahabas names, because the goal is not to spread correct information about Shias. It's actually to incite, to provoke, to spread fitna, to make them angry, to try to get, retaliation from them. And this is wrong. It's not even wrong. It's actually sinful. Because basically, the verse in the Quran that says you should not curse the idols of the mushrikun, so that they in turn wouldn't curse Allah, will come into play. Because you actually cursing their idols or their figures, and you'll end up having, uh, a retaliation, and you will bear the consequences. You will be the one responsible when in turn, they curse the imams or anyone related to them, whom we actually honor. Now, sometimes it could be, unprovoked, wherein or whereby um, a Sunni or a Salafi might come on the stage, and the next thing is he starts insulting our figures. Now, in this case, if he does that, sometimes you may not be able to control your emotions, or you might get triggered or provoked, and you might respond. That's a different case. He's angering you, he caused it, so he bears the sin for them, for others insulting his figures, if there is a sin for that. So he's causing the Shias to actually retaliate, and often at times, you may not even need to retaliate. Just kick him, move him down or block him or something. So it's all depends, on the context. But definitely today, if you want to reach out to the Sunnis, you want to convince them, or you want to persuade them, going about, sending public la'na and, trying to prove you, especially online, because often at times, this wouldn't happen in public. And if you're a Shi'i or you're a Shirazi or Akhbari or whatever, you don't go in public, and be sending la'na, because it's most likely, you might end up, eating a punch on your face. And even if you are You are as strong as the Prophet. Okay, let me even don't say Imam Ali alayhi salam. Let me say you are as strong as the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wasallam. If you do this, you're this careless, you end up, eating a punch. Now, even the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wasallam, he was oppressed, he was persecuted. So you can also, put yourself in a situation wherein you end up being oppressed and persecuted. Because why? You couldn't control your mouth. It can happen, and then you enter, into unnecessary fights and all that in public. What's the use? Is it needful? Especially if you're the one causing the provocation, and the provocation is not coming from the other side, whereby you're the one in the defense. So it all depends on the context, but definitely I don't support, provoking Sunnis or anyone just for the sake of it. It shouldn't be done. Now it's different now. Naturally speaking, Sunnis themselves, they are always, they don't even need, excuses to feel provoked, because the people that they actually honor, the people that they revere, they have, a very black history. They have questionable characters. You have they are questionable characters among the Sunni figures, historically speaking. So the moment you go into the history, the moment you go into the books, they feel triggered, they feel offended. So even if you're not sending la'na, even if you're not sending la'na, they are already, at the receiving end. They feel the pressure. They feel they are being attacked. They feel their figures are being exposed. So they think it's a scandal. They think it's an insult, even when you actually giving them the fact from the past. So how much more when, without the facts, without the history to back up your claims, you actually just, send in la'na just for the sake of it, because you're excited, and many of them could be, kids, young, young people, maybe in their teens, maybe early 20s. And, sadly, the sad part is when, the older ones behave like the kids. And of course, I don't think, this should be the case.
I think that's a good way of definitely looking at it. Going to talking about what's in the corpus, the Shia corpus, the Sunni corpus, and then that's how you kind of delve into the history. Um, I wanted to talk about a subject that can be kind of contentious because sometimes I get into trouble online, and they like Sunnis will end up using this against me. Some of the alleged racist hadiths from Shiism, and then when we try to compare the racist hadiths in the Shia corpus to the racist hadiths in the Sunni corpus, it ends up becoming a very contentious issue, uh, particularly when we're talking about Islam. Like, how would you weigh in on that? Uh, what is your view on basically the racially charged hadith in the Shia corpus and the Sunni corpus? How would you compare the two?
Um, I think first of all, in the Shia books, it's just needs, some understanding. We don't have racist narrations, but of course, when someone is actually, feeling the pressure, or he sees himself that he's actually at the receiving end, he will naturally need to find something to more or less, clutch at straws, so that he can also um, get something, to attack you with. So this is the case with many of them, the Sunni polemicists. So they will try to twist, what's in the Shia books. Now, the narrations oftentimes, which, they bring about, they have to do with the Sind, the Kurd, the Zanj. There are narrations in Al-Kafi. So they will tell you, like, for example, the Imam said, do not marry from the Kurd and the Sind and the Zanj, because they are actually a deformed creation. So the question is this actually racism, or there is actually another reason why the Imam is actually telling you this? Don't marry from them. Because normally the issue of marriage, even in the Sunni books, if you're pleased with someone in terms of his deen and dunya, you give him your daughter if he's a believer. Now, if someone is coming and you're refusing, or the Imam is telling you these people, they deform creation and all that, what could be the reason? It's it's actually their polytheism. It could be also political reasons, like for example, the Zanj. They have a political history in the Islamic world. They are uprising and all that. If you know a people or a group, they are actually staging an uprising against the authorities, and I am from a minority group, and I am under sanctions, and I am facing persecution, I wouldn't want to be associated with such a group, because if I associate myself with such a group, well, it means I'm aiding them. And in the end of the day, I will get the same punishment which they eventually will get, because the Zanj, for example, the Zanj rebellion was crushed. Eventually, it was crushed. So there, there are, non-racist motives or sentiments behind these narrations. But the funny thing is, oftentimes, the Sunni actually doesn't know that the same narration is actually found in their books. Like, for example, Darqutni has a report wherein he said, حدثنا أحمد بن محمد بن زياد حدثنا محمد بن حماد بن ماهان حدثني محمد بن عقبة حدثنا أبو أمية بن يعلى الثقفي عن هشام بن عروة عن أبيه عن عائشة. There's a report from عائشة قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أنكحوا إلى الأكفاء وانكحوهم واختاروا لنطفكم وإياكم والزنج فإنه خلق مشوه. Darqutni narrates from Ahmad bin Muhammad bin Ziyad, from Muhammad bin Hamad bin Mahan, who narrates from Muhammad bin Uqba, who narrates from Umayyah bin Ya'la al-Thaqafi, from Hisham bin Urwa, from his father, from Aisha, who said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam said, marry those who are compatible with you, marry them and choose them for your children, and beware of marrying the Zanj, for verily it is a deformed creation. This is a Sunni. It's a Sunni hadith. Then, for example, in Bukhari, you'll find the raisin head narration, which is actually found there. In one of the books of Ibn Taymiyyah, you'll find, very racist statements from the Sunnis. And this is racism. Now, the hadith about the Zanj are not, all the black people. They are a tribe or a clan or whatever, or an ethnicity. But it's not racially motivated. There's something, whether it's their shirk or whatever, their religion or their politics, something is wrong with these people. We don't want to be associated with them. And it's not just in the Hadith in Al Kafi, it's not just the Zanj that I mentioned, the Sind, the Kurd, and these are not black people. So oftentimes, they come, they hear, my accent, it's African. They say, oh, how can you be Shia and you're actually African or you're black? This is what they say. So the answer is simple. The hadith is not targeting, all black people. No, it's talking about Zenj. It's talking about groups that are also not black. And the same hadith is found, or a similar hadith about the Zenj is found in your own books. And you can even find more. The raisin head hadith in Bukhari. You can also find the statement of Ibn Taymiyyah. There is a book of Ibn Taymiyyah that's called Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim, volume 1, page 419. He said it is the belief of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah that the race of the Arab, The word he used is جنس العرب. فإن الذي عليه أهل السنة والجماعة اعتقاد أن جنس العرب أفضل من جنس العجم، عبرانيهم وسريانهم ورومهم وفرسهم وغيرهم. Said the jins, the race of the Arabs, is superior to the non-Arabs, comprising of the Hebrews or the Jews, the Syrians or the Arameans, the Romans, the Europeans, the Persians, and others. This is racist. There is no way Abu Lahab, who was Arab, is superior to yourself because you're from Africa. There is no way, because it even go against the logic of the Quran. Inna akramakum عند الله أتقاكم. This is racism. That hadith about the Zanj, it's not racist, whether it's in the Sunni book or in the Shia book. And also, how many of our Imams were actually born to African mothers? I think three of them, three of our Imams. So, in the end
Yeah,
of the day, these are just polemics that are meant, to detract. They are not meant, for constructive discussions.
yeah. I think I notice something very interesting about that dynamic is that every now and then Sunniism, when they really want to criticize a black Shia, sometimes they will end up going to Nargis and talking about Nargis, alayhi salam, even though there are credible reports that she herself was a Nubian, she was black. Like, I'm just wondering.
Yes, Naam. So oftentimes, they bring the hadith from Bihar al-Anwar that she was a Roman slave, and Allah protected her from abuse of her custodian. Now, in the hadith itself, there is actually nothing, nothing shameful. Let me put it this way: Allah protected her from being abused by her captors or her custodian. So Allah protected her. But you hear a very, very filthy, very filthy statement from them. Like, for example, that she was. I don't want to say this, but you know that she was actually abused, or she was raped by 40 men, and this kind of things. This is normally what they say, and there is no evidence for this. It's not in our books. What's there is the captor wanted to abuse her, but Allah protected her. He wasn't able. I think the custodian got his hand, I think, paralyzed or something like that. Something happened. It was a sign from Allah. This is the story about the Roman princess. And this story, in and of itself, is not reliable, by the way. It's not. The reliable story, or the reliable narrator, which we have from Imam al-Jawad, alayhi salam, is that the mother of the 12th Imam will be, uh, she will be, um, she will be Nubian. She'll be Nubia. So not a Roman princess. But this story about the Roman princess and all, it's very popular among the Shias even. But what is more reliable is that the mother of the Imam of the time, Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, is that his mom was from Africa, not from Rome. Yeah, so the Sunnis try to twist that narrative about the Roman princess because they are hot, like, and this is understandable. Honestly, I feel sympathy, for them. If you have, for example, in Bukhari, in Muslim and others, about a certain lady teaching men how to wash semen of his garment, or a man teaching a man how to wash off semen of his garment, or teaching a man how to do ghusl janaba, or telling her nieces and her sisters to suckle grown men. If you have all these things in your main books, of course you will feel hot. When the Shi'i comes and he rubs these things on your face, it's very hurtful. But this is the path you've chosen. This is the path you want for yourself. You have the choice to live it. There is an alternative in Islam, or there are alternatives in Islam. You don't just have to, it's not a must. You must be a Sunni or a follower of, so and so persons. So this is actually, it's understandable. So out of desperation, they twist the Shia narrations. Sometimes they objectify them. They try to sexualize them. This is understandable, but it backfires because in the end of the day, you're exposed. It shows you're desperate. It shows you're hot. It shows you're not honest. It shows you don't comprehend also what you're reading.
And this kind of ends up going, um, looking at the history, Sunnism and Shiism, that dynamic, how it's developed and how it's shaped politics today. Do you think there is a profound lesson in that? How everything is kind of developed from that history, from those figures that kind of started it all, and have kind of shaped what's going on in West Asia today and shaped global politics generally when looking at the Sunni Shia dynamic, especially in West Asia.
Sorry, brother, I didn't quite get the question. If you can just rephrase it.
So when you look at these differences, you know that lady you were talking about, for example, and how much of an impact she had in the way the caliphate developed, and how she kind of inadvertently helped bring the rise of the Umayyads, the Abbasids, and how that Sunni Shia dynamic has evolved politically in West Asia and throughout the world. Um, is there something profound in the lessons and the Dawah that you give that can help to explain the politics of today and what's going on?
Um, Definitely, definitely. Whatever is happening today or unfolding today, even though many Shias and many Sunnis, at least the secular-minded ones, they will tell you, for example, like it's popular in Arabic, like don't go into a Byzantine argument. Normally if you open religious topics among the secular-minded ones, whether they are Shia or Sunni, they will tell you not to go into a Jidal Byzanti. Don't go into a Byzantine argue. I don't know, I think that's like an axiom. So the truth of the matter is, whatever is happening today is a consequence of everything collectively in combination that happened 1,400 years ago. Whether you like it or you don't like it, it has to do with Aisha, her war with Imam Ali alayhi salam, with Saqifa, with Fadak, with Siffin, with Naharwan, with the tragedy of Karbala. Everything happening today in the Middle East, in the Islamic world, it has to do with what happened in the past. The divisions, the grudges, the hatred, whether it's in Syria or Iraq or elsewhere. So it is a consequence. We can't deny this. You can't escape it. It's part of your reality, especially every year when we commemorate, for example, the tragedy of Karbala during Ashura in Muharram, in the month of Muharram. You can't just escape it. This is a reality of our existence. And if we don't talk about these things, the propaganda, the misconceptions, they will continue, they will thrive. So, left for me, I think governments in the Middle East, instead of arranging soccer tournaments, hosting the World Cup, like, Qatar, for example, did, I think, 2 years ago, is it, or 3 years ago? Instead of hosting the World Cup and, making concerts and festivals I think get scholars, which, it's happening on social media. It can also happen, at the highest level. It can happen at the highest level. Let these governments get scholars, respectful scholars, reputable scholars, not the ones, who will incite and, call others names and accuse others baselessly. No. Get scholars who are level headed. Let them talk about these things so that people can learn. Of course, it's not in the interest, by the way, of the Sunnis to do this. So you see, so it's not in their interest for these things to happen. And on TikTok, for example, we've heard that some shuyukh in some masajid, I think in the UK, they've passed fatwas. Don't go into the Shia lives. Our youths are getting confused. They're asking questions. So it's not in their interest, to go into these issues. So you should actually, by the way, it's their aqidah. What happened among the Sahaba, don't discuss it. Hide it. Shove it under the rug. They shouldn't be known. Those things shouldn't be known, shouldn't be discussed. So you see, there is really no serious mind to push this from the other side. So we have the responsibility to keep doing this, speak, spread information. All of us, as individuals, as governments, as organizations, scholars, everybody, spread the true history about what happened. It will help us. It will make the future safer for our children, our grandchildren, for the generations to come. Otherwise, we'll continue to face persecution into the future. The only thing that can stop the persecution, the massacres, the genocide in Pakistan, they're killing Shias like chickens. It's happening today in Syria. What can stop this is knowledge. There is jahil on the other side. They don't know, or they don't want to know, or they are actually blindfolded. Others don't want them to know. All they will tell you is, oh, they insult Aisha, oh, they curse Sahaba, even though, this is a fallacy. We don't curse all the Sahaba. We don't have issues with all the Sahaba. So we have a responsibility to spread the correct narrative, to spread the correct history, to expose the falsehoods, the propaganda, the lies, the misconceptions. We have this responsibility to free ourselves, to free our image, to let them know that you are victims of a distorted history. And what they've told you about us is not true. You just need to, you just need your brain to work, to function properly. And you will see that, you live in another Jahiliyyah period. So yes, whatever happened in the past is affecting us today. Look, for example, at Syria. You can't actually believe that some Sunnis they actually made a song praising Banu Umayyah. There's this guy, he responded to a Latmiya, I think praising Banu Hashim also, by making a song praising Banu Umayyah. So Banu Umayyah asluhum dhahab. Banu Umayyah, their origin is made of gold. And we know who Banu Umayyah were. They were children of prostitutes, children of adulteresses. Take, for example, Hind, the mother of Muawiyah. In the time of Jahiliyyah, she was the owner of the red flag, which symbolizes a prostitute's house, like a brothel. And I don't want to go into her dirty history. They have the records. She used to love Sudanese men, and every time she gets pregnant, she aborts. Muawiyah was attributed by 4 men, and he was allotted to Abu Sufyan. Like Abu Sufyan won the jackpot. And you have an Arab, Sunni today, he's making a song praising this kind of people. It's strange. This is blindness. It is ignorance. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, in their books, one of the neighborhoods he used to hate was the neighborhood of Banu Umayyah. He cursed people of Banu Umayyah. Imam Ali in his qunut, he used to curse Muawiyah. And Muawiyah used to curse him also. And then you have someone claiming to be a Sunni Muslim. He's singing a song glorifying Banu Umayyah. We are, as Muslims, I can say we are unfortunate. We are in deep, sorrowful state, our history, and we are paying, for what happened in the past.
I mean, talking about that history, that very, very explicit history. Speaking in Syria now, what are your comments on the shrine to Muawiyah by Sunnis, where they are beating their chests and crying tears for Muawiyah? And what would your comments be about these scholars that have basically been paid by governments to incite against the Shia, particularly in Sunni states?
Um, to be honest, brother, I think you should rephrase the question. I didn't quite get like exactly what you're hitting at.
So I was just thinking, like, what in Syria you see the Muawiyah shrine. There's a shrine to Muawiyah in Syria where a lot of these killings are happening. And do you see the irony in their in videos of people from HTS and people from these other groups that are governing Syria right now, beating their chests and shedding tears over there to the Muawiyah shrines, and at the same time, you see a lot of scholars that are, high profile being paid essentially to incite against Shiism in general and Shias in particular.
Um, to be honest, I think if they want to be visiting the shrine of Muawiyah, they should go ahead. We don't care, honestly. Like even in Baghdad, you have, for example, the shrine of Abu Hanifa, just opposite the shrine of Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam. So we don't, lakum dinukum waliya din, or whatever, you want to say, like ikraha fi din, whatever, you want to say about them having the freedom to revere or worship whoever they want. In the end of the day, Allah will judge us all. If the Muawiyah was a saint or they love him so much, may Allah join them with Muawiyah. It's not our business, basically. We don't feel incited. We don't. Now, do we dislike it? Of course, we dislike it. Because of the reality of who Muawiyah was. But if they choose, to go and cry and beat them, go ahead, do it. Allah will judge you. We are not going to, to attack their shrine or no, we don't do these things. In fact, throughout the rule of Bashar al-Assad, Muawiyah's grave was intact. It was there. In Iraq, you have graves of personalities that we don't dislike. We've not desecrated their graves. The Shia of Iraq didn't do that. Similarly, in Iran, take for example the grave of Harun al-Rashid. There's in the shrine of Imam Rida alayhi salam. The Iranians could have easily, dug the grave and, maybe exhume his body and transfer it to somewhere else. But we haven't done that. We are not grave diggers. We don't dig the graves of people. It's not part of our deen and all that. We haven't done it. Now you want to tell me, oh, you have a hadith, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam will dig the grave of two people. Habibi, this is Imam Mahdi. He will decide. The Issue is we are not doing it. We are not the ones to do it. We are not doing it. We are not told to do it. So if they want to, honor Muawiyah, type, go ahead, honor Muawiyah. It's your choice. Let Muawiyah be your intercessor on the day of judgment, if he can, or if he will be allowed.
Wow. So just to kind of wrap up, I think this has been a very good conversation in discussing, Shiism, how you became a debater, uh, especially on Clubhouse, but in other areas as well. Just a final conclusion that you would want to say to basically social radical revert Muslim its audience and basically the Shias in general, and maybe people outside of the religion just looking in or just have more questions and want to learn more.
Um, you want me to give like an advice to revert?
Advice to reverts, advice to Shias, and maybe even advice to people outside of the religion, or just anything that you personally want to say to them.
Well, we should continue to be Shias. We shouldn't shy from our history or going into the history and preaching our religion. Defending the Aqidah is our responsibility. If we don't do it, no one will do it for you. The scholars are doing their fair share. Unfortunately, for example, in the non Arabic scene, there is a vacuum, there is a void in people, or in people having this need, for knowledgeable people to defend the deen in English, in maybe Spanish. That could be the same case, in other languages. But in English, especially, we don't have scholars who are debating. If you go, for example, into the Arabic scene on YouTube, there are channels, you have scholars, debating scholars in Arabic. And of course, always, the Shia scholars are triumphant. We don't have this in English. In the end of the day, I still consider myself a lay person. I'm not an authority. It's out of passion doing this in the service of my deen, in the service of Allah, in the service of the Ahlul Bayt, alayhim salam. So there is need for more scholars, English speaking scholars. Perhaps uh, we need more English speaking scholars graduating from the houses who will go into the field of polemics in English, because there is a void. And there are many, non Arabic speaking Shias. They end up confused. They don't have Arabic as a tool to research, to debate. They can't access easily, certain Arabic websites or even Arabic books, or they don't even know where to access them. Now you might say, there is Google Translate, or this app can, yeah, true. But even to search for those books, at least you need basic Arabic. So in the end of the day, we should continue preaching. We have a responsibility. We should continue preaching, defending our Aqidah. For reverts, they should study also. It's the same thing. Study your religion. Don't listen to anyone. Even if I tell you something, research, read, confirm by yourself. Because if you confirm by yourself, no one can mislead you. So we should emphasize on seeking knowledge and spreading knowledge.
All right, that's a beautiful way to conclude. Uh, Seek knowledge, spread knowledge as much as you can. I think that's a very good message for everyone. Yeah, thank you very much for this interview, Rafid. It's good that we're finally able to do it again, and I'm happy that at least this one will be preserved because we weren't able to keep the last one. And there was a lot of good things that were said on that last one too. I'm kind of missing it, but yeah, Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair for speaking with me today.
وإياكم أخي. Thank you very much